But under the SNP, things have got worse, and quite dramatically so.
I would challenge that in terms of the general performance of education. I mean, I look at the situation right now.
Numeracy and literacy, there's no question that things have got worse.
I'm not denying that in terms of literacy and numeracy, and I'm telling you what we are doing to address that. And you say, well, frameworks and benchmarks. I look at the debate in England just now about falling budgets in schools. We've just taken a decision to increase the budgets that schools have by £120 million, money going direct to head teachers, which is giving them the ability to invest in measures that they think will improve literacy and numeracy.
You're 700 teachers short at the moment in Scotland, so you need to spend some money.
Teaching recruitment is a challenge, not just in Scotland, but in many countries. That's why right now we are increasing teacher intake. The General Teaching Council in Scotland is looking at different ways to bring different kinds of people into teaching. We're trying to encourage retired teachers to come back into teaching. So I'm being very frank about it.
You could pay them some more, that might help.
Well, we have negotiations with teaching unions, as is the case in England, about the pay and conditions of teachers. That's certainly one of the issues that we've always got to keep in mind. But we also need to be both frank about the challenges we've got in education. Some of the challenges are not unique to Scotland, but we also have to recognise that the fundamentals of Scottish education in many respects are very strong. And I repeat again, we now have record numbers of young people coming out of our schools with higher and advanced higher passes and going into what we call positive destinations. So I'm focused on improving these areas that we need to improve, but also making sure that we don't do a disservice to teachers and pupils across the country by saying everything about Scottish education is bad, because emphatically it is not.
All right, well, let's return to what you said in the Independence Blueprint in 2013 about the Pisa or OECD rankings. You said Scottish pupils outperform the OECD average in reading and science. The latest results show that we have halted a period of relative international decline since 2000. Can you tell us what's happened since then?
No, we have seen that situation not as good as we want it to be. Look, Andrew, I'm not going to sit here and deny that. We have the Pisa study. We also have what's called SSLN, which was a study, the latest version of which was published last week. I should say it's a sample survey, and it looks at actually quite small numbers of pupils. One of the things we have done is introduce, and it's the National Improvement Framework.
You didn't challenge the Pisa rankings when they were going well for you. You can hardly challenge them now they're going so badly.
I didn't challenge them.
Right.
I said I accepted them.
Okay.
I absolutely, I know, and I've said this many times before, I know how important a good education has been to me in my life. I want every young person in Scotland to have the best education. The vast majority of young people in Scotland do get the best of education, but there are areas where we need to do better, and I am not shying away from that.
And yet, under the SNP, something serious has gone wrong. Scotland used to be one of the most best educated countries in the world.
On many measures, it still is.
And you have all the powers. You have all the powers to change this, and yet things are going backwards.
Well, on literacy and numeracy, we have a particular challenge, but on many other measures of Scottish education, that is just not true. We are not going backwards.
Literacy and numeracy are kind of important.
Look, I think you're trying to conduct this this interview on the basis that I'm being defensive here. I'm not being defensive. I absolutely readily accept the areas where we need to do better. That's why we have put such effort into the initiatives and the reforms that we are taking forward. And the point I was going to make earlier on, which I didn't get the chance to finish, is that we are actually introducing more transparency so that I can be held more to account. So instead of sample surveys like the ones we've got, we will have information on every pupil in Scotland at the required levels, broken down, not just by local authority, but school by school, so that there'll be no hiding place for any politician on the performance of Scottish education.
And you said not so long ago that you wanted to be judged by this and your neck would be on the line.
Absolutely.
You're looking a little Mary Queen of Scots at the moment on that subject.
I don't wish to be Mary Queen of Scots. Look, I've been First Minister for 2.5 years, and I said when I became First Minister that this was what I wanted to be the defining priority of however many years I am First Minister, and I hold to that. So by the time that we're at the next Scottish election, I want to see improvement. And we're talking about literacy and numeracy. The other big challenge we've got in Scotland, which again is not unique to Scotland, is to close the attainment gap between the richest and the poorest young people.
And you're still behind England on that.
Well, on some measures, and we don't measure it in exactly the same way. You and I have had the discussion about university entrance before, where the measurements are different in Scotland and England. But in a sense, I'm not sitting here wanting to make those comparisons. I want Scotland to be the best on its own terms.